Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jess. I love to knit. I don't know how to do a podcast, but that is what I'm doing right now. Um, I really enjoy watching podcasts, so I thought I would make a contribution and hopefully provide something that is enjoyable for other people to watch as well. Um, Today I'm going to talk about a few things. First of all, I want to talk about the project that I am working on, and then while I'm working on that, I would love to talk about what my knitting plans for the year are and some of my thoughts around the new year and new goals as far as knitting goes. This is the time of year where people like to make new goals and new project lists and things like that. So I'll talk you through what I am thinking about at this time of year. First of all, the thing that I have in my project bag right now is a cardigan. It is from this book by Kim Hargreaves, and it is the Granite cardigan. So just a simple ribbed cardigan. It says elegantly understated ribbed cardigan. And I have been working on this for probably most of the month of December. I've had to slow down my knitting quite a bit. Last August, I managed to injure my wrist from knitting too much. So I had to kind of take a break for about 6 weeks while I let my wrist recover. And then just trying to take it a bit more slow in the second half of the year as far as knitting projects and the kind of the pace at which I was pumping out knitted objects. If you saw my video of what I knitted in the first half of 2023, it was a lot of projects. So no regrets, but I definitely in future will be more careful about maybe not knitting so many things so quickly. Anyway, I have been working on this for the past few weeks. I have a completed back and 2 sleeves, so I just need to make the 2 fronts for this cardigan. And it's been a bit of an interesting, I hate the word journey, but it's been a bit of an interesting journey with making this cardigan because I am doing it with, I believe it's a different weight of yarn, and I'm doing it on a different size needle because I had this Rowan Alpaca Soft DK in this lovely cream color that I was able to get for a really good price. I bought enough to make a cardigan, and I've just been waiting until I had an idea of exactly what I wanted to make with it, and finally found this cardigan pattern in a pattern book I already had. So I said, I will just adjust the pattern to make it the correct size, even though the yarn weight is different, because this pattern calls for a super fine merino 4-ply, and it calls for it to be made on 2 3/4 millimeter needles. I am making it on 4 millimeter needles with DK yarn. And the thing that's interesting about it is that I'm hitting gauge. So apparently I'm a really tight knitter, or Kim Hargreaves is a really loose knitter, or something. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I'm hitting gauge even with much larger needles and much larger yarn. So it's been interesting trying to make it then as a result, because I sized down quite a bit in the pattern to try to get the fit that I wanted. I would really like it to be quite a fitted cardigan rather than something very loose. And I think looking at the kind of finished measurements that are listed in the pattern, it is intended to be fitted in the sleeve, but not in the body. And I wanted it to be kind of fitted all over. So I had already sized down, expecting that I would not hit gauge because of my yarn choice and needle choice. but then I hit gauge, and that was a real surprise. But I don't think it will be a problem fit wise. It does look as if it will still fit just fine. So we shall see. And obviously, it's ribbed, so it is stretchier than perhaps um, a stockinette pattern would be, or perhaps some other textured pattern. However, before I can continue, I have knitted this much of the first front of this cardigan, but before I can continue, I actually need to tear it out and start again. And that is because there are two reasons. The first is I realized that I cast this piece on when I was quite tired one night, and I cast on the wrong number of stitches. And I didn't realize that until I had knitted up through all of this bottom ribbing and started on the pattern stitches. And that was okay. I was able to kind of just adjust it and work around it. But then I realized that, I don't know how much you can tell, but when I hold this up, make sure it's loose. When I hold this up, you can see that no matter how far I push these stitches in so that it's not stretching, this button band is curling. It is curling upwards at the bottom because I knitted this portion of the button band too tight in the garter stitch edging. And that's probably just because I don't do garter stitch. I simply do not knit in garter stitch. This is the first time I think I have ever used garter stitch since I started knitting garments for myself. I simply don't do it. So I was too tight in this section. I realized it and I thought I will just loosen up my gauge, and you can actually see here where I loosened the gauge and it's sitting much straighter now. But this portion is curved, and I thought that I would be able to get that out with blocking, but on closer inspection, I don't think that's going to be possible. I think I'm going to just, if I continue with it, I'm going to end up with a bit of a wonky button band at the bottom of one side, and I do not want that. I want this cardigan to look nice. I want it to look like quality, and that's not going to happen if I leave this as it is. So I actually need to take this off and start over. So there you go.
Here I am unwinding all of the work that I had already done, and then casting on and counting all of the new stitches to start over again, which I had to do twice because I can't count.
Okay, 71 stitches. And now for the demonic first row. I have now cast on the stitches to restart that front panel, and I have done the first row. So hopefully now I can actually just knit and manage to talk while I am doing it. Talk about, because I wanted to talk about my knitting plans for this year and some of the things that I am thinking about moving forward with my knitting. The first one is that I would like to start making podcasts on a weekly basis and talking about my knitting. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and subscribe, and then you'll get notifications when I post something. Hopefully that will be weekly. I can't guarantee completely. I'm not always in the best health, so it could be a bit hit or miss. But I am intending to post weekly. More importantly, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is, what is the future of knitting going to look like for me? And I ask that because I am now 3 years into knitting regularly. And I have knit quite a lot of jumpers and things. I have a section in my closet dedicated to my knits. They're hanging up in like a shoe organizer thing. But that way I can roll them up and they're not hanging on hangers. They're just rolled up and put neatly into their own little cubby each. And when I did that for the first time, I realized just how many jumpers I have. I don't technically need any more as much as I would like to just keep knitting jumpers indefinitely. I have quite a few now, and there's not really any reason for me to keep knitting the same kinds of things at the same pace that I have knitted them in the previous 3 years. So, thinking about where I'm going to go moving forward with my knitting, I have been thinking a lot about what is it going to mean for me to be knitting sustainably. Sustainability is something that is important to me. I'm a biologist by education. Um, I'm interested in keeping the world happy and healthy from an ecological standpoint. And one of the biggest things that we do as humans that is bad for the planet is to overconsume. And in my book, consumption means anything that you bring into your home. So if I buy it from a shop and I bring it into my home, I have consumed that thing, even if I haven't actually like used it up as in eating the food or using the thing to the point of wearing out. For me, consumption is just I have bought this thing, it is in my house now. I have consumed it from the shop. So I would like to not be consuming so many objects. I would really like to not buy more than I need to this year. And that's partly in support of the planet, obviously, and that is partly in support of my personal finances. It's expensive to buy things that you don't use. It's expensive to buy yarn full stop, especially if all it does is sit in a basket or on a shelf or in a cupboard for years. I don't want to be part of that cycle of just buying more and more and then needing to find more and more spaces to store those things and having kind of money just tucked away on my shelves. I would like to be able to use my money to do things like travel and see family and make memories with my own family. So, what I'm getting at is that I'm trying to be much more conscious of what I make this year. And a big part of that for me is that last year I made a list of the kind of top things that I think are useful in a knitted wardrobe. And I was intending to make a video about that, but I never got around to it. But I did write out the things that I thought would be most useful as knitted items in my wardrobe personally. Obviously, your mileage may vary. You may have some very different things that you find useful in a knitted wardrobe. But I'll just run through quickly what some of the things are that I think would be useful for me in my wardrobe because I realized, as I said, I realized I had loads of jumpers in all kinds of different styles and materials. I have acrylic ones from back when I started knitting, and that was all that I thought it was reasonable to pay for something that I was really just trying out for the first time, up to jumpers that are made in premium yarns like this one, or like the Malabrigo jumpers that I've made for some family members. So I have a lot of jumpers. I have more than I need. And I had never taken much thought into what kind of jumper I would make. I would just make literally whatever crossed my mind, whatever I thought would be fun at the time, from a knitter's perspective. I didn't really think very much about the wearability of those jumpers. And my earliest jumpers, I didn't even really, they don't even really fit that well. There are various mistakes in there. And I mean, obviously, that's true. Even some of the things I've made more recently are not a perfect fit. I'm definitely not an expert at knitting, but I do enjoy it. And I would like to keep doing it. So I made this list. My list of things that I think are key wardrobe items that I could have as knitted wardrobe items are a classic boxy jumper, a classic fitted jumper, a classic fitted cardigan, a classic oversized cardigan, and then a couple of summer items like a summer weight jumper, um, a knitted t shirt or tank top, and then hats and gloves. And just by stating what those categories were of like jumper versus cardigan, fitted versus boxy, I realized how many of my jumpers that I want to be wearing all the time all fit in the same category. I have loads of jumpers that are too big to go under a coat. I don't have any fitted jumpers that are in the materials that I wear most often. And the only cardigan that I have ever made to completion is the one that I'm wearing, and it is super oversized. Um, so, going through what I thought of as my essential knitted wardrobe list really helped point out to me that I have been not knitting the wrong things, but I certainly haven't been knitting the things that I need most in my own wardrobe, which it's silly and I don't like it. I would like for everything that I knit to be really useful. I would like to wear everything that I knit. I would like it to see plenty of use. Um, and that's been difficult with so many of my jumpers overlapping where I can't wear them under a coat because they're too bulky, because they're oversized fits, or I can't wear them with the my skirts because they look weird just with the proportions. They don't suit my style to be worn with anything other than jeans. So I'm trying to be much more considerate about what I make. And going along with that, I'm trying to be more considerate about what I buy yarn wise. Um, I don't really like the idea of doing a no buy year or month even for yarn because, as we all know, sometimes yarn just falls into your lap. Like you're at the shop and it will be a brilliant deal on yarn. And if you don't get it, then you won't have it and you won't ever be able to get it again because it's yarn and I'm an opportunist and don't have a lot of patience when it comes to these things. If I see something I really love, I want to buy it now. But I'm trying to just be a little bit more considerate about that because in the past I have bought yarn that was a really good deal and then realized that I didn't really like the colors or I didn't really like the fiber content because it was itchy or it was just not something I was likely to wear due to like the breathability and warmth of the fibers. So I'm trying to be a lot more considerate about what I do buy. I don't want to have my yarn stash grow any more than it has. We have three baskets that are dedicated to yarn because my husband knits also. We have three baskets dedicated to yarn and then bags and bags of yarn also that are just like piled up around the yard baskets. Um, it's a it's a mess and I don't like it. It visually I don't like it. um, I'm also quite a I wouldn't say I'm the tidiest person in the world, but I definitely don't like things to just be piled up places. I get a bit antsy when stuff is in piles all over the place. So I definitely have a goal to use up more of the yarn that I already have. Um, I think we actually did pretty well last year with not accumulating too much more yarn. Um, not it like it's not way more yarn than we had the year before. However, I'm also aware of the fact that I did knit myself into an injury last year because of the speed at which I was knitting. And the fact that I was knitting so quickly is the only reason that our yarn stash didn't get completely out of hand. So I'm very aware that if I were to buy yarn at the same rate that I did last year, we would quickly be absolutely buried in yarn that was not made up into anything because I wouldn't have the time. I do have a life outside of knitting as much as sometimes I would like to just be able to sit in a corner and knit all day. So, I guess to summarize, I'm trying to be a lot more mindful of what I make this year. I want to make things that I'm going to use and that I'm going to love, and also things that are going to look really good. I wouldn't, I don't know that I've really found my knitting, not, I don't know that I've really found my knitwear style yet. Because I do mostly knit things because I want to knit them more than because I want to wear them. I like the look of the knit without thinking about how I'm going to wear it. So that's something I want to be more aware of as I go forward with my knitting, that I want to actually make things that I am going to love the way they look, as well as the process of making them. And that's all from me today. I am going to keep working on this, and hopefully, by the next time I do a podcast episode, I will be much further along and be hopefully nearly finished. These pieces should go pretty quickly if I'm able to concentrate on them. So, um, good luck in all of your endeavors. Happy New Year. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you later.